It is now 7 o'clock, and I'd like to call to order the January 20, 2016 Novi Public Library Board of Trustees regular meeting. At this point, I'd like to ask Trustee Burma to do the roll call.
Trustee William Lawler.
Here.
Trustee John Hasbrook.
Here.
Trustee Craig Messerner.
Here.
Trustee Tara Mishner.
Here.
Trustee Doreen Popan.
Here.
Trustee Mark Sterling.
Present.
Dinesh Verma is present. Student Representative Ruchi Ankiredi. Cindy Hong.
Here.
Thank you. Shall we stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like us to take a look at our agenda that's been prepared for this evening, and if there's any comments to the agenda. If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve it.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Yes,
1 second.
1 second. Somebody have a question?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was
At
looking
our
up.
budget meeting, you mentioned you wanted to add something to the agenda concerning our meeting after the,
It's in item 14 on the results of the mid-year
Oh,
review for
okay,
the executive.
okay.
So it is there. I don't think we have
Okay.
to, it's on the agenda right now.
okay.
Yep, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, been a motion to approve the agenda and seconded as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Our agenda is unanimously approved. Consent agenda. This consists of the approval of the claims and warrants L538 showing up on pages 3 through 5, and also consists of the approval of the regular meeting minutes of December 16, 2015. Any comments, questions in regard to the consent agenda? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none.
Abstain, since I can't approve minutes of the meeting, I did not attend. So
Okay.
I abstain.
The consent agenda is approved by all the members that were here at the meeting last month. Correspondence, item number 5. Do we have any correspondence?
We do not.
Okay, no correspondence tonight. No special guests tonight? No
No-
presentations
no
tonight?
special guests,
Okay.
no.
We're moving right along here. Public comment. This is the opportunity for anybody from the public, if they have any comments to the board. It's an opportunity to make those comments at this time. I'd ask that you move to the podium to address the board if you have any comments. I do not see anybody moving to the podium to address the board, so I'm going to close this session for public comment and move into item number 8, which is our student representative report.
The DIY Mason Jar Cookie Mix program was held on December 17th. In that program, teens filled jars with delicious cookie mix to make the perfect holiday gifts. And then on December 22nd, teens gathered to decorate gingerbread houses. And in the month of December, the Teen Space had a total of 659 attendees. And an update for the Teen Advisory Board: at the December meeting, TAB members played a creative game to get to know each other better, and then afterward they participated in the Mason Jar Cookie Mix program to celebrate the holiday season. In upcoming programs, there's the Introduction to Robotics program held on January 16th, the Financial Aid for College program held on January 26th, and the Teen Advisory Board meeting will occur on January 22nd.
Thank you very much. I have one question. I'm just trying to put this in perspective. 659 attendees in December. I mean, it seems like a lot to me. How does that compare for other months, or is this a holiday month where there's more? How does that, what's the norm compared to the attendees on a per month basis?
That's typically the Teen Space is seeing on an average anywhere from 30 to 40 students per day.
Per day, okay.
So that's actually pretty good for December months. And I've been hearing that just in the beginning with January starting, it's been even busier because with the weather being as cold as it is, the kids aren't hanging out outside as much. They are coming in and they are spending the time in the library. So we tend to see higher numbers in January, February, March. As the spring sports start, that sometimes dwindles down a little bit. We see a little less, but it's going very strong.
Good, that's a good number. It's a good number. Thank you. Any other comments or questions for Doreen?
I'd like to know a little bit more about the robotics program. How's that taking off and what's included in that?
That actually was a partnership that we had with Club Z, which is a tutoring company that we have sponsored the library in the past. I know that this was our first time doing this with them, and I understand that the attendance was fairly low. So they were the schools have introduced a lot of robotics programs and STEM programs through the schools. In working with this particular group, I don't know if they've had much with partnering. I think they were hoping with partnering with the library, maybe they would attract some students who might be interested in robotics, but I have found that their numbers were fairly low. But it's just an opportunity for engineering and that type of background, and for kids to get acclimated to it and learn more about it. But unfortunately, the numbers were low over the weekend.
Is there a lot of equipment or?
It's on the Club Z to be doing that. So what we're doing is we're hosting it, we're having it at the library, giving it to be a public place and for them to cooperate with us. But Club Z is actually handling the program. It's not a library program that's been planned.
Any other comments, questions, or
Do
student
they
representatives?
work with the robotics program that the high school has?
They don't, because Club Z is a separate entity altogether, so, yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it very much. Next item is the president's report. And on behalf of the board, first of all, I'd like to welcome Doreen Papard to our board. It's a pleasure for me and all the other board members to have you as a member of our board, and I want to welcome you on behalf of the public, because Julie was kind enough to give me your resume and give us a resume in your packet. I'm going to say a few things about you. I'm not going to say everything that's here, because there's a laundry list of things that you have done and accomplished, but know that you were appointed to the board in December by the council, that you have, an extensive educational background, including a degree in library science, and your professional experience in the school system, educator, or most recently assistant superintendent in the Ann Arbor Public Schools. A lot of professional recognitions and community service, including your current activities at Fox Run. And most notably, you served a term on city council. I would just like to observe that as a board, we've had some board members move to city council. I personally like this trend of city council members then coming to the library board. So I appreciate the trend that you're starting for us, Doreen. And if you want to say anything, you give you a chance to say something if you want to say anything, Doreen. But welcome to our board.
Thank you. It's such a warm welcome, and it was wonderful to spend Saturday kind of getting to know you in an informal kind of basis on the budget. So, if I'm not doing what you want, just kind of pull me aside and say, Joey, you don't know this, but. So, I'm open to all suggestions, so thank you.
Thank you. Second item for the president's report is our goals update. And I'm going to ask Julie if she would report on the goals update.
Absolutely. And Doreen, for you, just a little bit of background. We always, the library board actually in the spring sits down together, has a special session where we try to develop some goals that come from the board perspective for the library to follow for the year. And so these are specific goals that were adopted by the library board for the library. We then put different strategies and tactics to them. So what you're seeing is a pretty comprehensive list since July of things that the staff has accomplished or tried or given you updates on in regard to meeting some of the goals that the library board has put together. What I want to point out to the entire board this evening is on page 17. If you look towards the middle of the page there, it says advertising need for volunteers to work elections. You know, we've talked a little bit about how the library might be able to help the city or some of the different departments. And they had reached out to us asking if we could put up flyers and make awareness to them needing volunteers for upcoming elections, and we are doing that, and we try to help them when we can. We're also a voting precinct now at the library, which I think is great because it gives the library extra exposure to those neighbors that are coming in and sometimes are not visiting us, and then they get in a couple times a year because they're voting. On page 19, I want to point out that Board President Stirring and I attended the City Council early budget session, which occurred on, I apologize, I put 1/16, but I think it was 1/8. I was doing this board packet on 1/16. So it was 1/8. I'll make sure that I make that change. And then just below that, myself and President Stirring and Treasurer Verma, we attended on December 21st one of the council meetings so that we could present the annual budget for the library as well as some strategic planning updates and information that went over very well.
Was that Trustee Verma?
Yes, it's Trustee Verma. Yes, thank you. I'll make sure that I make that change as well. Thank you. Sorry about that. Following along, if we go to page 22, I want to point out that just to improve some marketing specifically with our teen patrons, we took the screen that's in the teen stop on the second floor, and you'll notice that the slides and the information that's on that particular screen has been changed specifically to teen programming and announcements, because we know that the teenagers are using that space. So we've been able to separate and do different information for that area. Following along on page 25, this is a really unique thing that came out of the youth room during the holidays, and it's called Story Time to Go, Picture Book Bundles. This was really neat, and this was done by our librarian Kathleen Alberga, so I just want to give her a little shout out. She took different themes of story time picture books and themed them together with ribbons on them and packaged them, and you could check out a whole collection of books at one time to use, you know, over the holidays and with children. So it was already theme prepared. So when you were coming into the library, you weren't getting just one book, you were getting a whole set. So I thought that was a really unique way of, you know, showing our materials and putting that together. Below that, we did receive our survey results, which we'll talk a little bit about tonight, which are in the packet, but I was happy to see 627 responses. That's a really good number compared to some past years when it comes to responses from the community for our annual feedback that we look for when it comes to our services. On page 26, there's information in my director's report tonight about hosting the American Business Women's Association at the library on, and again, it's the 16th, it should say the 6th on that, on January 6th, which was a Wednesday. We received just over $500 in a donation from ABWA, which went towards specific purchases of historic women's history books that were purchased for the library. Over 34 books were purchased for this new collection, and we unveiled it on Wednesday, January 6th. And it was wonderful to work with this group of ladies and this particular association. So we're very proud to have these new materials in the library. I even received a comment card from a patron who thanked me for the collection and was so excited. She wanted to check out all of them, but she thought that would be kind of, you know, too much. So she said she left a few for other patrons, but she was so happy to see the diversity of the titles and the different women that were recognized in these new materials. So obviously the patrons have enjoyed having it. There was a bibliography that was also created, so if by chance all the books are checked out, we do have a list so someone can place a hold on them as well. And then lastly, on page 28, we did have, just wanted to confirm for you based on the meeting that we had on Saturday. The traffic study is moving forward. We did have the company out on Thursday, the 14th. It was confirmed that they were out looking at different patterns through the day. They were out from about 11 to about 7 at night so that they could see some late morning traffic, some afternoon school traffic, and some evening traffic. That was a day I gave them that had evening programming and a number of events at the library. So hopefully they got a good sampling of the traffic at the library that day. And then I spoke to Brian Coburn, who's from the city, and hopefully we'll see a report shortly. I did attend the traffic study, the traffic safety meeting today, which they have quarterly through the city, and we did bring up the library and the entranceway, and this still moving forward. So we're just waiting at this point. We are still on target, though. I did question that of Brian, just knowing that this additional study was done, and he's still very confident that once we get the results and we can move forward, we'll still be in a good time frame for what we've planned, if that's what we're going to be doing. Okay? And that's all I have for the goals, if anyone has any questions.
Any questions to our director in regard to goals update, Doreen?
I really would like to compliment you for being open on Martin Luther King Day.
Yes.
That may not have been a goal, but it certainly is in the essence of goals of opening the library to the community. And it was heartening to see that somebody recognized that. So thank you.
I've been doing that now, I want to say 3 years, actually. That was a board decision that we had made a few years back, that it would be very, I think, beneficial to the community to be open on Mondays for that particular day, knowing that the schools are closed, and we had an opportunity then to be doing some programming and reaching out with the community. So thank you, and I think it's been a great benefit for us to be open.
No other questions? Okay, in that case, we'll turn it over to Trustee Messernick and the Treasurer's Report.
Thank you. The various budget and expenditure and revenue reports and balance sheets are on pages 29 through 39. The budget, of course, for Fund 268 remains unchanged. It's the same budget we've seen each month. Just to recap, the budget indicates that we will have revenues of approximately $2.7 million, expenditures of a little over $3 million, and that we would need to consume a little over $400,000 of our fund balance for this fiscal year. When we look at our expenditures and revenue for the month of December, the revenue increased by a little over $7,000 in November. The majority of this came from book fines and from meeting rooms. We have, just as a side note, continued to receive cafe revenue on a monthly basis. Our year-to-date revenue through December is $2,688,000. So you can see, as of now, we're about $15,000 ahead on revenue for what was projected for the year. Our expenditures in December increased by approximately $183,000. The majority of this amount was from staffing, from salaries and related costs like insurance and Social Security. Other expense categories were relatively low in December, but of course there may well be a number of invoices that have yet to get processed through. Our expenditures for the first 6 months of the year are $1,327,000. This is about 43% of what we had budgeted. Since we're now through half of the fiscal year, we are running positive to budget for expenditures. In fact, if our second half of the year expenditures were to be exactly the same as what we show for the first half, we would wind up actually increasing our fund balance by $18,000 for the year. As you can probably imagine, this is somewhat unlikely since we are always running in arrears as far as getting invoices processed. So it's difficult to project where the year will wind up, but clearly we're in pretty good shape at this point in time for where we stand for the rest of the year, based on what we know right now. We do have a positive net of revenue and expenditures for Fund 268 of $1,360,000. Fund 269, the budget again shows a revenue budget of 41,700 and expenditures of 39,600 for a positive net of revenue and expenditures of $2,100. Our actuals through 6 months, we've had revenue of a little less than 34,000 and expenditures of a little less than 20,000, leaving us with a net of revenue and expenditures of a positive $14,000 through December. We take a look at the balance sheets. You'll see for Fund 268, a beginning balance of $1,719,000 for the fiscal year. You add to that our net of revenue and expenditures through 6 months of $1,360,000, and it brings our ending fund balance to $3,080,000. For Fund 269, the beginning fund balance at the start of the year was $1,629,000. Our current year net of revenue and expenditures at this point of $14,000 brings our fund balance for Fund 269 to $1,643,000. So just to briefly summarize, the numbers are fairly good at this point in time. We hope they stay that way or improve. There were no unusual items in the expenditures, no line items that really need or warrant any discussion or special consideration. Any questions on the financials?
Questions?
The only item I have, which continues to sit on the balance sheet under liabilities, is this unemployment insurance liability, which is a negative number, which would mean it's actually an asset, not a liability. And it's been that number for a while. Do we know what that is?
I'm not sure. We can certainly look into it. I'm not sure what that is. It's about $4,000 is what's showing there, yeah.
Yep, I can find out.
No other questions? Thank you, Craig. That's very good.
Thank you.
No other questions? Thank you. Director's report. Back to you, Julie.
Okay, few things just I'll point out to you. One thing specific that I want the board to know, and I detailed it in your packet on page 40, is that, and I've shared this with the board. In fact, we talked a little bit about this at our budget session. We've, one department in particular is our support services department that tends to have some turnover. It's a lot of part-time positions. And for February, we're going to be holding off on doing some outreach just because we're in a transition of doing some new hiring, and we have some training that needs to be done. We're going to continue our express service, which means we go to those facilities to pick up and drop off holds. But our actual physical carts that we take out and take kind of like a mini library for patrons to check out books and maybe get a new library card, that will just be suspended for the month of February so that this department can train their new employees that are coming on board and get them ready for March and make sure that they're ready to go with this service. So I just wanted to make you aware of that in case we hear anything. I don't expect there to be any negative. Mary Ann Zermulin, who's the head of the department, has been reaching out to these locations just to let them know that unfortunately we have to do this because we're training some new staff, and this is the first time we've ever had to do it, so I don't expect this to be a regular thing, but they were very proactive in making sure this was done right and in a timely manner. So hopefully this won't be too much of a disservice to our members that are using this. And then I wanted to point out, I don't know if you're all familiar, but the city has launched a new campaign of random acts of kindness, and the library was fortunate to receive a wonderful gift of the Oak Point Church here in Novi. They generously dropped off lunch to the library staff a week ago. On Wednesday, January 14th. They appreciate the library and the services that we've provided in the community, and it was just a gift of thank you. So I just wanted to, put a shout out to them, how wonderful their group is. We had the chance to work with them last spring when they did a Boomers program, and the library was able to be a partner, and it was a fantastic program. So we're glad that we have that relationship with them, and it was a very nice gift for them to do for the staff. I know the staff was very appreciative. A little photo, as you can see, and some more information about the gift from the American Business Women's Association is included. Also wanted to let you know about 2 grant opportunities that we are currently seeking. Lindsay Fricky, who is our teen librarian, she is just amazing when it comes to the outreach and getting Novi Library involved in different things. And these are 2 grants that she actually wrote and that she's looking for summer reading. So I wanted to point those out to you. She's expecting to have some notice maybe towards the middle of February if we've won any of that grant money. So I'll definitely keep you posted. On page 42, I did include for you, because I wasn't sure if you'd be interested or not, on the 2 days that we were open over the holiday, just to give you what those door counts were. So surprisingly, I was there, I worked that weekend, and I thought it seemed quieter than it really was based on the numbers. But as you can see, Saturday the 26th, we had 693 patrons come through the doors. That's half of what we normally see on an average. And then Sunday, 429, and that's actually only 6 hours that were open, from 12 to 6. So that's pretty good numbers for what I thought was going to be a quiet weekend. So I wanted to share that with you. And then also following is just a little bit of information from Information Services. April Stevenson, the head of the department, as well as librarians Evan Smale and Michael Postula, helped formulate the questions and put out the survey that we did in November to the community. It was both in paper form, and when patrons walked in, we took 1 week where we were actually soliciting and asking patrons to fill out the form. They could also do it online with our website. But as you can see, there were some great statistics and information provided based on the questions that were asked, a lot of good feedback. One thing that was on my radar, and that was, these are the actual comments from patrons. A lot of them, and the question was related to our card catalog and the usage of it, and do they find it easy to use or not. It went back and forth. I tend to see a little more frustration and some negativity with, they have a hard time sometimes using it. And I'm really excited to see this information because, we have the catalog services through the library network. So this is through our cooperative. It's not something that we own personally, but we're paying into, and we're part of a shared system. I will be sharing this information with our library cooperative director because, in fact, he called me today and I told him it was coming. We're actually, as a cooperative, they're looking at potentially a new form of software and a new catalog system maybe in the future. And this is good information for the company that we're currently working with to know how some of these patrons feel about the catalog. And so I will both be sharing it with the cooperative director, and the company is going to be in town. They're called Cersei Dynex. They're going to be in town in the next couple weeks. That's why he was calling me, and they wanted to meet with me because we're one of the larger libraries that's part of the consortium, and I will be sharing this information with the company as well, so they can see actual patron comments and where I think there could be some improvement with this catalog. Yes.
Mr. President?
Yep.
I did look at that with a lot of interest as well, particularly the 3 pages worth of comments. As usual, the feedback is largely highly positive. However, I, like you, was struck by some of the frustration that was apparent there.
Yep.
And I do understand some of it's out of our control, but
Right.
It does seem like it could be an opportunity for some real improvement.
Absolutely.
And I don't know the business at all, really, but, maybe things like the librarian walking up to somebody who seems to have maybe been there an inordinate amount of time and offer to help them, or something
Right.
to
Right.
try to deal with this might be in order.
Absolutely. And our staff has seen the feedback as well, so they're aware of it. But I think the bigger thing is that, one thing I want to share with you is I appreciate these patrons and these comments because I've had my staff say we're frustrated also sometimes with using it, and that's the professional trying to get through the catalog. So if sometimes they're having difficulty, then the patron's having difficulty if the professional can't sometimes find what they're looking for. And we've been saying that from a professional end, so to have the backing of your actual public using it and having difficulty even goes way farther. And so I'm excited that we have this information so that it can be shared, and it will be. Yep. Any other questions in regard to the survey at all? I thought it was very good information. I thought it was very positive in many aspects for us as the library. And, you know, we had said that we were going to ask some questions of the cafe. And as you can see, there is feedback for 3 questions that we asked in regard to. And I have not had a chance, but I will be sharing this with our cafe leasee in the future. I will schedule a meeting with him so that I can share this information so he sees it. I think there's room for improvement based on the numbers. Following that on page 53 this is Margie's last report. She gave me the last one for December. So this is her writing and in her words, some of the programs that were highlighted in December and what was going on. Next month, which I made a note for all of you, April Stevenson, the head of information services, she will take on the task of filling you in on the different programs and public service events that are taking place. So you'll see a new bit of information coming in, maybe in a different format. Following is building operations. This is from me. So we had talked a little bit at the budget session on Saturday, but a little heads up to this door being secured, and we have finalized that. The work was completed as of this morning and is functioning as it should. And then a number of tasks that have been done throughout the month. I want to highlight to you, if you look, there were 83 meeting room requests. That's a lot of meeting rooms. As you can see how busy we are with not only, and that includes library programs that have to be set up and attended to, but rentals as well. So you can see where our facilities department spends a lot of time, you know, with facilities tickets, then meeting rooms, and then the periodic maintenance type tickets that staff might send and say, oh, there's an issue here, and they're addressing it. We have a software system that's tracking that stuff, so staff can send them a note of where there's a problem, they take in that information, and then they categorize it based on the importance of it, and they work on it, and that's how they can also tell when something's been completed as well. So I think they're doing very well. A lot of their time, I can tell you right now, which I put at the bottom, they're now meeting with me regularly. We've started that since Mary Ellen is no longer with us. And we have a couple projects that we're looking into, as well as them spending a little bit of time outside with the weather changing since December. So they do a little bit of salting, and we do have a company that comes in, but you know, the actual sidewalks and stuff need regular attention, which they tend to be outside a little bit more during this weather. Following on page 57, which is going into statistics, I wanted to point out to you all the box at the bottom of page 57. There was a discrepancy which Mary Ann Zermulin provided to you of some numbers for July, August, and September, and so I just wanted to bring your attention to that, and we'll slowly change those out, but I'm going to leave that box there just for a couple months, just for you to be aware that she found some mistakes that she made changes on. Page 58, these are statistics for self-checkout use. So we stay pretty consistent between 55 and 56% with self-checkouts. So that means half of our patrons check out their materials on their own, which I think is really great. And it has stayed pretty consistent with that number since we've opened the building. Following that is library usage. So it shows you how we're being used in the building and the hours and the people visiting by month. And then we have computer logins, gives you some ideas of usage for there. Early literacy are some workstations that are in our youth area and the amount of usage for that. Page 62 has some technology training sessions and how many we're running by month. And then I love this chart. This is our some of our online resources. Freegal is free and legal downloadable music, as you can see. Zinio is downloadable magazines, full text, and then Gale Courses, which is the online courses you can take through the library for free. And then we have following is Overdrive. That's our downloadable books. Our charging station usage, as you can see in December, it was at 0. So, and it looks like it's sometimes has trended low during that month. Last year was a little higher, but still doing pretty well. Meeting room rentals, the usage on that. And then finally, our app, which for December did really well at 38,000 hits on our app. And those top 5 are the top 5 things that people are going to. And following that, on page 67, we were highlighted in the Novi Today article. This is our Battle of the Books, which is coming up, and it'll occur on February 7. Let's see, hold on. It'll occur in March. I have a March date. Yes, Saturday, March 12th, from 1 to 2, and that's here at the Civic Center. So if any of you are interested in attending, we always love to have board members available. I love this program. This program's been going on for over 12 years. This is 5th and 6th graders who, not only with all the work that they're doing during the school year, they take on the task of reading 6 novels, and then they form teams, and they learn the novels really, really well, and then they get quizzed on it, on the different books and different things about the books. And then the team who wins, we have prizes for. So it's a lot of fun. We typically have close to 100 students who take part in this every year. And from what I've heard, I believe the teams are all full, and they're getting ready for it in March. So they're reading away right now with the library. But that's all I have, and I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can count me in.
Okay, good.
That's my type of event.
I know, it's fun, so.
Just from past years, there is so much energy
There
in
is.
that room. I
Yes.
mean, you just feel the energy when the excitement, because.
And when they know they've answered the
Yeah, I
question
know,
right,
I know.
you know.
It's so exciting.
It
It's
is
a great
pretty
experience.
cool that these kids, you know, like I said, with all their homework and all the other things they have going on and other activities that they're involved in, that they will sit down and dedicate 6 books, you know, from December to March, and really study them so that they can answer those questions and do well with their teams. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, thank you.
Just a couple observations.
Sure.
That probably mean nothing right now, but maybe if we store them in our minds for later. You know, I'm really taking note of the fact that there were 600 people and 400 people that came the Saturday and the Sunday after the Christmas holiday. You know, we're a board that's really, you know, tough in terms of closing the library. We've been, you know, reluctant to do that. I still am kind of reluctant to close the library, but I also want to recognize that those were days of relatively low attendance. And when we look at scheduling things and we decide certain days to be closed, we keep that in mind, that those were low attendance days. I'm a little surprised, but the numbers bear out the facts.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm probably one of the hardest person to convince to
Right.
close a library on any given day for a reason, but
Sure.
but I recognize that, and I think we all should do that. And the other thing in regard to the building operation and the fact that our rooms are so well used and so well rented, and we certainly like them to be available to the community at very reasonable rates. But given the high usage, they're obviously a great deal for the people that use them, that we maybe should take a look at whether or not we should be raising those rates a little bit. I think that the statistics are bearing out that they're a great deal,
Right.
and that they're well used, and that we maybe have to adjust those rental rates a little bit to.
Just so you know,
keep
I
that in
did
mind.
some adjustments. It doesn't have to come to board, and I think we're almost a full year that I did raise a few of those rooms and evened them out a little bit. A couple of those rooms, just depending on size, they were all the same, so I tried to look at them and raise them based on the number of people that were in the room. So there were a few rooms that did go up in price over the last year. Not all of them, and a couple went down just because of the size of them, and it didn't make sense. But overall, we have increased, and we are taking in a little more revenue just because of that and some of those changes. But you know, we still are, and I'm proud to say this, we still are one of the cheapest places to rent a room in town, and people appreciate the aesthetics and what the library looks like and using those rooms, and it's definitely a business that I was surprised really caught on, and we've become known for. But it's also a great location, with it being a public building and people saying, hey, let's meet at the library for that. I'm really glad that we've made that change years ago and we're providing it to the community. I think it's worked out very well.
Okay. Any other comments? Trustee Burma.
Now, this meeting room rentals, these are the attendants, those who are renting the room.
Correct.
Some of the rooms are not on rent, but people use it. How about their number of attendants?
There's two categories. We have library programming, and we keep those numbers separate from rentals. But all of the numbers are being calculated. What you're seeing is just rentals. In the annual report, you get programming numbers, and that's the other numbers from the library's programs that we offer. So we are keeping track of both.
So you don't want to put that in a separate column?
I could if you wanted to see it every month. We do keep it. It would be up to the board. I just knew that because of meeting rooms and it being a public use, that's the public use end of it. But it's up to you if that's something,
Others also, the Spanish teaching, this, that.
but that's part of the library. That's,
This is also a library.
right.
But I just want to know because the rooms are being used.
Yes, they are.
So that's what I'm saying. So I think that also should come in a separate column.
So you're looking for the programming numbers to be, okay?
Trustee Pepper.
Tied into that, I asked, I have the open December 26th and 27th, is it worth it? And that's already been questioned, so I just add my 2 cents to really question it. With regard to meeting rooms, I was concerned about parking. If we have large events, what does that do for parking for library patrons?
Well, I think we're in a good spot when it comes to parking because we are able to also use the school lot, which is right next door, and also the staff lot behind the library, which is a school staff lot. So in the evenings, that's typically empty. Overall, we do have a lot of parking that we have access to.
And then I had another question about grants. Do you see grants as like extra programming, extra money, or does it supplement the budget?
It's always been extra for us. Like whenever we can, if it's something that the staff, if they're planning a program or more programs and services that way, if they're planning something, they'll look for a grant that ties in. We haven't actually done that in terms of supplementing the budget in the past.
Any questions, comments? Okay. Thank you, George.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Committee reports.
So the only committee report, the HR Policy Committee, we had a review meeting on Tuesday, January 19th. Where we are almost there. We will be bringing you a draft in February for you to see all of the HR policies that are specific to library employees. We'll give you that whole month to review them, and then we'll bring them back in March for a second review. And that's when I'd be looking for an approval. And what I hope in the meantime is once you get them in February, if there's any questions or comments or concerns while you're reading through them, if you would let me know, we can talk and I can hopefully try to address them. And then when we come back in March, we can have those conversations. If there are certain policies you feel should be pulled out, talked about specifically based on language and what's being recommended, we can do that. Otherwise, we would be approving as a whole, the whole entire HR policy document. There are a lot of policies for you to be looking through in the next couple months, February and March.
Is there a suggestion that the committee is going to ask the board to look at all of the policies, or are they going to suggest, here's, of all the policies we have, we recommend that you look at, whatever, changing the 5 or 10, or is it kind of, here's all the policies?
There's a lot that have been changed. Go ahead, Atar, if you want to speak to.
I don't mind going ahead, but Ramesh has his hand up.
Okay.
So it won't be fair since we share the committee. Would you like to go
Yeah,
first?
the point I'm saying is, you have asked the board to send you the comments of reviewing. I would like to have those comments comments to be given to the lecture committee also. So we should also look at it, because we are looking into now making these policy changes. But if there are any comments are coming from the board, so
Right.
please
Yes.
give it to us also.
Yes. The only thing we have to be careful of is there's no conversation. So if you can send, just because of open meetings, we want to be careful of that. If you can send that to us, we can continue to review them and come back for that March meeting.
Board will send it to you, you can send it.
We can, okay, great. So you'll send them to me, and then I'll sit down with the committee in between that time frame of February to March for those approvals. Okay, but it is a very big document. So I don't know if your email will handle it. I think what I'm going to try to do is we'll put it in a packet for you and get it all out to you in February. I'll bring it,
Just for your
yeah,
information.
I'll bring it to you physically for you to start. And you'll see the actual policy with strikeouts. You'll be able to follow where changes are being recommended and everything. Yep.
And just thank you for offering me a chance to speak to you.
Sure.
It's covering all aspects of HR, so definitely addressing the things that have already been there, but even new things like social media policy, that's something that's stuck in there now that we're reviewing and trying to get a good feel for what that needs to look like, both personally, professionally, possibly.
Right.
So there's a lot to look through. So you will get, like Julie said, you'll get a packet, but you'll also probably have parts taken out where you need to focus a little bit more, and we'll be able to help with that. Okay?
Yeah, and I thank Tara and Ramesh for all of their time and effort, as well as the committee that has been helping me. The staff, we had a small committee from the staff first to really dive into everything, make suggestions, and then we started meeting with the committee itself to let them hear all the different suggestions and ideas. So there's been a lot of work involved over the months. We keep going, so.
I like that you brought that up. I think that's super important, just to reiterate. We started this process.
September.
Yeah, well, was it in August when you
Well,
guys
yeah,
first started? So
right.
We've been doing this for a while. And I say that not to say that we're taking our time.
No.
But we
yeah.
are putting effort into it, and when I say we, I mean our committee, but also the staff has done a great job of really doing the pre-work. So a little bit of kudos to them publicly.
Absolutely,
Is
yes,
important.
yes. So,
Is this the first time you've redone, taken a look at policies? Or
It is the
how often
first-
do you do a review?
well, we hadn't done a review in 5 years since the new building. I won't go that long in the future, but it just, I don't know what happened to 5 years. It went really fast, so. But we'll keep better track of it. I think it should be done every couple of years, to be quite honest. And we've, actually, the board's been really great with, when there are things that have come up, we've addressed them as needed. So there's been a number of policies that have come to the board over the years to change and tweak, just knowing what's changed, whether it's technology or services and stuff. We've always brought them and made changes. So you'll even see dates and how it follows, how it's been looked at in the past. We keep that history with the actual policy as well.
Okay.
So that's been the only committee that has met. The building committee, as soon as I know some more about the traffic study, they will be getting involved, and I'll have a meeting with them. Looking at, I think strategic planning, we're good for a while. Finance, the only thing I think that might be on our radar for that is, we talked about that planned giving type stuff, and I know there's another meeting coming up in the end of January, so that might be an opportunity there. If we roll forward, with the building assessment, then finance obviously will have a big task coming up in the next few months when we start our new budget, to be looking at setting aside and maybe making some direction for some of the money that we have currently that could be set aside for different projects. Events, marketing, and fundraising, we haven't done too much, but I know that HR committee, and let me go back here, and policy committee, right after HR, policy committee is going to start the same kind of review of policies, but they're from a building and patron perspective, and I do believe that'll take us probably just as much time, maybe another 5-6 months to get through that as well, and I've got another group of staff that will be working on those. I really think those two major committees and getting through those policies with review are good at this time for some major critical work.
On that note, has the staff also been able to look at the policies, as a whole? All right, like doing the pre-work, kind of like HR?
We haven't. I'm keeping this, and then we'll start into the next group.
So we'll start fresh.
We will.
Okay.
And I think there's different, we do have different people for the policy committee as well. I know John is,
And
yes, I know you're back on again. That'll be good because there's some crossover, so it'll be helpful to have you.
I was just gonna throw in, if I may, if they wanna do something similar to what we did, I think it really.
Did it work well? Okay,
Yeah.
good. Yep.
Getting their feedback, I don't know if,
I like that too, because I like getting their input first. I think it helps.
yeah.
They're the ones who deal with the day-to-days, and especially when it comes to the patron policies for the policy committee, for that particular group of policies, they're gonna have more input.
I gotta say, it's exciting to see so much enthusiasm for HR policies.
Well, it
and
feels good when you
policies
get
in
through
general.
some
I
of
mean,
that.
So sometimes
I tell
those are
ya.
committees people would rather not sit on.
I
But
know,
it's just
but-
kinda nice to see this high level of enthusiasm.
I
going
feel the
through.
word accomplishment is like, it's like a big check that we got through all that. So it's good. Thank you.
Moving on to our second public comment session for the evening. This is the second opportunity in our meeting for the public to make comments to this board. If you have any comments, you're asked to move to the podium now to address the board. Not seeing anybody moving to the board, I'm going to close this session of the public comment section and move on to item number 14, which are matters for the board action. We have one item tonight for matters of board action, and what this is to vote on the results of the mid-year review for our director. We had an executive session last month where we talked about the review of the director. Since then, we've had the opportunity to send out salary surveys for 2014, as well as 2015, so the board members have had a chance to see that. The consensus that we made at the executive session, and it was just a consensus from my perspective, no official action was taken, which we would have to take tonight. But my observation of that, my consensus was that we would move at an open session to increase the director's salary to, and this is the exact number, $103,225.62, which was kind of the formula that we had talked about, and a one-time stipend of $10,000. So that would be my observation of where we were at the executive session. So, but the board members have now had a chance to see additional information that was presented. So that is where I thought we were, and would entertain a motion or further discussion on that topic at this time.
Motion to move.
Motion to move by trustee Verma.
Second?
It's been seconded. Any further discussion?
Is the criteria for that raise made public, or what criteria is used to determine an increase, or the precedent for a one-time only stipend?
The evaluation itself is an executive session discussion in terms of that. Really, the results of, I know that you weren't there, and so I'm hard to sort of keep an executive session which belongs in executive session, and the motion that has to be done in open session. There was evaluation and criteria that goes in the review, without, I guess, reviewing all of that or discussing all that. There is criteria and so forth that went into that.
I just wanted that to be on the record as well.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposition? None. The motion unanimously passes. Thank you, Julie.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate your hard work.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being here.
I have no other items that I'm aware of, and entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye.